Hello and welcome to the Ronnie Lever Show, where every week we bring you fascinating guests with inspiring stories of success and overcoming obstacles from the worlds of sports, business and entertainment. To support this channel, please subscribe, turn on the notification bell and hit the like button so that we can deliver you the best content possible. And now, thank you very much and enjoy the show. He is a living lexicon. He plays with words like others play with marbles. He's a studied historian, an author, and has almost a decade's worth of TV experience as a reporter and anchorman. He was at the Olympic Games and also at the FIFA World Cup. And for those of you who have seen it, he is a TV legend. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show. Here is David Herrmann-Meng. Woo!
Thank you. Thank you, Ronnie. It's a pleasure to be in your show.
Welcome,
Thank you
welcome.
very much.
That's quite a journey, and I don't even know if I mentioned you're an author as well. But when you listen to your own journey so far, and you're still quite young, what comes to mind to you?
Well, when you look at my hair, I look a bit younger as I am. I'm almost turning 40 in a few years, so I'm not that young anymore. It's probably the quarter Asian genes, so I look a bit younger than I am actually. But yeah, I'm working quite a lot of time in the media sector, so I have got some experience, especially at the Olympic Games. This was a great experience, or the FIFA World Cup in Russia. Both took place in 2018. But yeah, as you know, for the TV company I'm working for, I'm reporting about everything. It's sports, it's most of the time politics, it's society. So yeah, everything is interesting, and everything which brings breaking news is something I talk about almost every day.
Yeah, breaking news. That's the big word for every TV station or news station, because that's like the like giving to somebody chocolate as a dopamine or something, like the dopamine receptor, boom, breaking news, and whatever comes afterwards, it doesn't matter as long as it's breaking news. It's something that, like, oh, it immediately activates the brain, because it's like, I don't know if you know that, but our brain is not meant to make us happy. Our brain is meant to make us survive, and it means it's meant to look for dangers, and that's why yeah, breaking news is of course like, what happened?
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody takes attention, you know, when you have this sign and when you have these two words, breaking news, everybody is listening. And yeah, most of the time the news we are talking about are really breaking news, because what we are reporting is live, almost every day, 7 days a week. And that is the thing which is very special, because in Austria, something like that was not existing before 2016. It's a bit like Austrian CNN, but probably in a bit more funnier way. We are serious, but we also like to make jokes when it's a topic where this is nice
and appropriate. And I will get into that in just a moment, actually. But before we get into that, I already mentioned before that you are a studied historian. You studied history. How did you get into TV from that? Like, first of all, what made you study history? How do you get into TV from that? And was it something that you already wanted to do as a kid, or did you have another thing that you imagined, like as a kid, when somebody asked you, what do you want to become? Was it a TV personality, or was it something else?
No, to your last question, when I was a child, my dream was to become a lawyer or the director of an hotel, because I always liked it when I saw a man wearing a suit. Today I'm not wearing that, but when I was with my parents in a nice hotel and we saw the director who was going there, everybody was nice to him. I was saying to my parents, hey, this is my dream. I would love to become a director of a hotel one day, or a lawyer instead, because of the TV series which are also taking part in Austria. So this was very interesting. But then I really love to watch TV, sports especially. And then I found some reporters I really liked. You know them, of course, as well. One is Robert Seeger, who was reporting for about 40, 50 years for the ORF. And his passion for sports and his voice were the main characteristics which made me thought to go to the TV one day. And finally, I was studying history, but I was always interested in the media topics, not so much in old history, more in the media and in the sports history section. And yeah, then I saw one day that a new TV channel is opening soon from OE24. So I was writing an email, and that was the beginning of that.
Wow. Yeah. OE24, also a partner channel of CNN. CNN, basically everybody knows. And all right, so you wrote an email, but it's like, I mean, you're probably not the only person who wrote an email. So how did you actually, like, what made the difference for you?
Yeah, probably that I've got some experience before. I was working as for the ORF for a few months as a historicum. I was working for Archives there, so I had some experience in that. Not so much in daily journalism, but in general, how to find files, how to use them. And I was working a few months for the ORF in the football and sports sector. So I got already a little bit experience of that, and I was working for another TV channel calling ATV for 1 month for the society. So I already had a foot in all these media sectors. But of course, I wanted to work in a normal professional way, and that was the beginning in that. And since 2016, I'm still there, and I really like it because, as you said, it's a kind of CNN in Austria.
And so basically, to sum it up, you did some internships before, and internships usually are not like, yeah, this is the big money coming in, but it's something where you get experience. And through that actually opened the door, or you had a foot in the door, as you said, to higher things or to do something else, as you said, and then to the Austrian CNN or OE24. Let me ask you something, because I would say many people have an ambivalent view about media in general, and especially about news. Also, the last years with the pandemic, it was something where media, or the use of media as itself, was something that was used very clear in different directions, because people who were for or pro or against COVID and so on, they were watching different things, and they were watching different channels, because every channel was also kind of following their line. So what does media mean to you? What does news mean to you?
For me, in my point of view, it's really important to try to be neutral. Of course, it's not possible at every time, but it's really important to see both sides, not just to report of that side or that side, that you try to see both sides. In Latin, we say audiatur et altera pars. That means you should listen to both arguments, and in the end, the visitor, the viewer, should make a picture of him or herself, and he should decide which arguments he likes and which arguments he doesn't like in the end. So for me, it's always important, especially during the pandemic, not to say this side is right, this side is false, to try to bring both arguments. Of course, listen what experts say. This is really important, because especially when you have a pandemic, it's important that you listen to people who studied that, and not listen to people who are writing something on Instagram or who are watching Dr. YouTube. But it's also important to listen to the people who are critical about the topic, and not just say they are idiots or they are this and that. This is really important. On the other side, it's always existing, not just in the Corona pandemic, a small group of people is not willing to listen to experts or to people who know the situation in a good way. And it's also important to say to that people, you are wrong.
So when listening to you, I mean, as a human being, you also have an opinion about things, obviously. And I'm sure you also have your opinion about things that you report on. How do you still stay neutral?
Yeah, it depends. When you have, for instance, a sports event, you are a sports expert as well. We are, of course, patriotic. We are happy when, for instance, an Austrian ski driver, Austrian football player is making a good result or a good performance. But on the other hand, it's always also important to see that other people and other countries are also performing well. And if they are better, of course, I'm not happy about that personally, but you should be fair enough to see that and to report about that. On the other hand, in some topic, I think it's really important that, especially as a reporter, you should be neutral, especially when you're reporting about politics in your country and you're not from a TV channel which is from this or that party. It's important to stay neutral because this is what people like. But in some ways, of course, when someone is saying something which is absolutely disgusting or absolute nonsense, it's important to say it's nonsense or disgusting. In that point, I think you don't have to be neutral all the time.
So to also call them out and say like, hey, come on, let's in Austria we have a saying like, let's leave the church in the village. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in other words, basically meaning that, come on, this is a bit far-fetched off. So talking about this, because that reminds me of something. When I was at the same TV station as you were, and I was hosting some duels, for example, on TV, where two people from opposite parties basically went off against each other, and they were saying all kinds of things, and then I remember talking to my mom, and she was watching it and also talking with some of her friends who were in her age, and then they were like, yeah, but I heard it on TV, and basically if it's on TV, it must be true. How do you actually, what would you say to that? Because I would say that the truth, or just because it's on TV, it has nothing to do with the truth. How should you deal with that, or as a viewer?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. And your mother is also right in a way, because if it's the only source she knows, then it's reality for her. But I think if you have the time and if you can compare, it's important as a viewer, especially with critical and important topics, that you compare different media, different sources. For instance, you say, I watched it on TV or I saw it in the media. There's a famous movie, probably you know it, Wake the Dog, where they make kind of war in a TV studio, and then somebody said, okay, I've seen it on TV, this war has to be true. But all in all, it was a fake, and it was for the presidential elections in the United States. It's a brilliant movie, I think with Dustin Hoffman, and yeah, it
Robert
was
De Niro, wasn't it?
Middle of the 1990s. And yes, Robert De Niro and Dustin Hoffman. And the situation didn't change at all. This film took place, I think, in 1996 or 1997. And still now, in time where you have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and all other things, it's important that you have television, that you have serious television which tries to find the truth. Of course, it's not always possible, because some topics are really hard to find what is 100% true and what not, which side is wrong. But we try to be close to the truth.
Yeah, I remember the movie Wag the Dog. It was I saw it in the movie theater back then, and it was really, on the one hand, it was kind of funny, because that was the way that it was being portrayed. But on the other hand, it also had some truth to it, because it was like, the reigning president, with the elections coming up, was very far behind in the polls, because the political performance was not very good. And then and then he was meeting with his PR staff, like, what can we do? What can we do in order to really turn this thing around? And then they were like, what's the one thing that's gonna really get everybody together and the whole country rallying behind you? It's going to war. And he was like, well, I'm not going to war just for an election. He's like, no, we're not going to war. We're just making them believe it's going to be a war.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
That was really, and then so they created all this stuff, as you said, in a TV studio, like coming up with all kinds of crazy things.
In Albania.
In where?
So in Albania. So probably people in Iran are not happy about that, but yeah, they became famous in that time.
And actually, that leads quite to my next story, or to my next question, because we were just talking about the truth and about the media and so on. What actually makes a good journalist?
You should be interested in several topics. It's important that you like what you're doing. I think, like in every job, that you have the passion, because on some days, it's not always funny when you have to wait for a press conference for hours or in front of a building and it's winter time. It's not always joyful, but all in all, you have to bring enough passion to that. And of course, you should have talent, because not everyone is able to talk about, I don't know, a political situation for 10 minutes without a break, or for hours. We often had the situation, Ronnie, in the past. So it's important that you bring some skills. And of course, you should like to be on stage, because it's not always joyful on the streets. People are nice, and when they see you and they know you, 90% of the people are nice and lovely. But in the internet and sometimes in emails, it can be different. So you should be aware of that. And as we say in Austria, you should like tomatoes when you are standing on the stage.
Okay, I haven't heard that, but as you're mentioning this, did you get a lot of, or do you get a lot of those kind of emails, like or messages or whatever kind of stuff from people like towards you?
Yeah, sometimes it depends. When it's a topic which is really important for the people, and probably if you have two groups and I'm making a little bit fun of that, but in a nice way, not in a bad way, then of course sometimes people are not happy with that, and sometimes you get emails about that. But most messages are nice. But on the other hand, we have a channel on YouTube, and especially for the women who are working for our company, sometimes they are getting comments which are really not nice. It's just about their attitude, and you have to stand over all that. Otherwise, you can't work with that. We had colleagues who said, okay, when I'm reporting, please make it that there are no comments on YouTube anymore to our YouTube person at the TV channel. So I'm the kind of person who is saying, okay, I don't mind. It's the situation. And if you don't stand the heat, don't be in the kitchen.
Yeah, if you don't stand the heat, don't be in the kitchen. How do you deal with the heat? Because I think that's not just something that is solely on TV. Nowadays, everybody can have that, because there are a lot of so-called haters out there, or people that are bored at home or whatever, and they just use that stage on the web in order to inscenate themselves, in order to put themselves out there, basically hiding behind a mask and just basically venting their emotions. But what recommendation would you give somebody to deal with hate from the internet? And especially, oftentimes it's anonymous hate. So, like, you cannot pinpoint that person.
Yeah, I think it depends. I like to make it in a funny way. If someone is writing towards me, I publish it and writing back something in a funny way. And then he's probably more angry about that. And I also had my goal because I don't really care what such people are doing. On the other hand, yeah, there are also some comments where it's not possible to write back when people really are turning aggressive. It's probably better not to answer. It's not happening that much, but sometimes it's the situation, and I would compare it with driving in a car. When people are driving in a car, sometimes some of them turning really aggressive. But if you would see this person on the street, per pedes, as we say, he wouldn't behave like that. So I think it's probably easier to feel anger and to feel negative emotions when you are on your mobile phone or in front of the laptop than when you are discussing face by face. Because sometimes I have people who are critical about something, and then I'm discussing with them on the streets, but then they are talking in a normal way. They are not that emotional. And I think this makes the big difference if you have this face-to-face communication or if you have a Facebook communication.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I have a question. Out of your TV experience that you've had, like in the last years, what makes, and thousands of hours on TV that you've been, what makes a person interesting for television? On two sides.
Yeah.
Let's first talk about if somebody would like to work on television. What are the personality traits that makes this person interesting for TV?
I would say, it's my point of view, it's important that you are different. We have, especially on radio, we have so many people who are moderating, and when you're listening to it in the car, for instance, everyone sounds so similar. And I'm the kind of person who likes it if someone is a bit different in the way he or she is talking or in the way he or she is presenting. And I think this is something which is also interesting for the audience, that you can see, okay, he is doing this and that. And me, for myself, I am a big fan in German language. Is easy, of course, than in another language for me to have this play on words. You're also a fan of that, I know that. And I would say if someone is interested to work in media, he should, especially for TV media, he should have talent, a good voice, and interest in something new every day. I think these are the main important rules, if you would call it so, for becoming a presenter or a correspondent or whatever in the media sector. And I've heard from some colleagues of from other media, it's also, for instance, at the colleagues of ORF, they really like it when they find somebody who studied something which is not typical for media. For instance, a few years ago, somebody told me they wanted to have a correspondent in Portugal, but they don't find someone who is speaking Portuguese. So probably this can also be interesting if you are an expert for a language or for a topic which is not so common for everybody.
Oh, very interesting. That's okay. That's very interesting. And as you were saying, like if you have something unique about you, just think about musicians, for example, because some of the most successful musicians of all time, they were very unique. Their sound, for example, Michael Jackson. You immediately, when you hear a Michael Jackson song, and even if you have never heard the song, you will immediately recognize that this is Michael Jackson because there's nobody else who sounds like that. Or Falco was a big Austrian star who had Rock Me Amadeus in the 80s, which was also #1 in the US. And also for him, it was, when you heard him, there was nobody else who sounded like him. Or if you take, for example, Freddie Mercury with Queen, was very, very unique as well. And so on. There are many of the big stars where it's like, there's nobody like that. Or for example, Pink. Pink is also very recognizable with her voice and everything. So if I understand you correctly, it's also something very similar for somebody who wants to be a personality on television. What about somebody who would like to get reported on? Like somebody who would like to get on TV, but not as somebody who works there, but somebody who maybe wants to use the media and television to promote their business. We have a very famous guy in Austria. He's already more than 90 years old, but he knows perfectly how to use the media because he's inscenating a lot, and he's doing, like, he's always on TV. He's always somebody that is being reported on. What makes somebody interesting to be covered from the media and from television?
I think it depends. On one hand, you often have people who are working as politicians and they want to be in media because they want to get the votes from the people. And there, I think every journalist should really take care of that, because it's important not to make advertisement for a party or a politician. The same is for people who want to make advertisement for their products or something like that, especially news. Of course, this is not allowed. If they want to make so, they can make advertisement with that. And then, of course, it's possible that they are on media or on TV as well. On the other hand, if you have or if you are an expert for a topic, if you like to talk, if you are open to talk to the people, and if you are able to talk in an easy way so that most of the people can understand what you are talking about, then you are absolutely right in media. Sometimes you have experts who know a lot about the topic and who are really coryphees on their place, but they are talking so difficult that no one really knows what he or she is talking about. I also had the situation at the university, probably you as well, that you had somebody who was brilliant, but he was talking so far away from Earth, he was on the moon, that nobody was really listening to him, and he was more seen like an alien than a human being.
Okay, so just to summarize it, basically, you need to stand out. Again, you need to be different in a way. Like, and it could be as an expert or just as somebody who also is able to put things into words that everybody understands. And then I would even add to that, maybe even polarize in a way, because oftentimes our society teaches us like, hey, like don't stick out of the crowd, like just be like everybody else. But the reality is, if you're normal or if you're average or if you're just like everybody else, nobody's gonna care. It's just about if you embrace the difference, if you play with that, then that's what makes somebody interesting.
Absolutely. Don't have fear to be a bit different. I would summarize it. It's often so. You mentioned, for instance, Michael Jackson. He was outstanding. Falco as well. Freddie Mercury. All these three people and many more of the superstars of the VIP and of the outstanding persons were different to 99% probably of the others in that topic. And I think it's good to have an own style. Of course, on TV, you shouldn't look like Quasimodo when you're coming to a TV studio or so. So everything you are doing should have some.
Of Notre Dame.
Sorry?
Or the Hunchback of Notre Dame, for example. Yeah,
absolutely. So, of course, it's important that you are looking nice. You don't have to be a supermodel, except you are at Heidi Klum or somewhere like that. But it's important that you look in a way that people like to see you. I think this is also important, that you have a good attitude, that you like to speak, that you have the passion for what you are speaking about. And you mentioned people who are 90 years old. For instance, we had in Austria famous Dr. Hugo Portisch, who was probably the most prominent journalist we had in the last century, and till 2-3 years ago when he unfortunately died. And he was a kind of person who was able to speak to the people in a very easy way. Nevertheless, he was like the professor of the nation. He was talking about politics and to history, and really almost everyone liked him. And if he would be a candidate for Austrian president, he would probably won these elections. But in the end, he always said, no, I don't want to become a politician. I'm a journalist. I like what I'm doing. I like to speak to the people and to make the people a bit more critical and a bit more interested for interesting topics.
Yeah, and they actually did a study at the U.S. Election of the presidential election in 2016 when Donald Trump became elected. They were actually checking about the Republican candidates. They were checking, okay, what grade level are they communicating with the voters? And while the competitors from Donald Trump, while they were talking in a 9th grade or 10th grade level with their voters, he was talking a 3rd or 4th grade level with the voters. So basically, everybody could understand that. And some people might argue that he was very close to his target audience, but that's not for me to decide. But anyway, so he always, like, everybody can understand when he's talking. At least, well, okay, I'm not going to go into that. But talking about with words, because you are very good with words, and you like to play with words, you like to use puns for all kinds of things. And is this a skill that or how did you develop that skill? How did it come along? Was it something you were born with, or is there a way to learn that for somebody who wants to be more flexible or more spontaneous, or who wants to really be very articulate with their words?
Well, it's difficult to say that. I would say I didn't have it all the time. When I was at the beginning of my career, I was more, is it possible to say that? And is it good or is it not good? And now I'm just thinking, okay, I will say it. Probably not all people are happy with that. Probably some people are saying, okay, this is not funny at all. But on the other hand, there are also people who like it because they say, okay, you're serious, but you're not, you are smiling, you are making a bit of comedy. And I think this is also important. I think it's important when you're working as a reporter, or if you like to speak, that you think a little bit before what you are doing. If you are thinking about a joke you have heard, a famous quote you have heard from a famous person, or if you can use a word of a person you are making an interview with and could probably deal with that, or can probably change it, that it has another meaning. And yeah, many things are spontaneous, but some of them, it really depends. It's difficult to say that. Okay. But I know you are a person who also like that. So.
I love that. And also, I do remember also quite some time on TV when I was saying some things where in the moment I knew, I hope that's not going to get me in trouble. but I was like,
but it didn't.
Okay. No, somehow, for whatever reason, never anything happened. But I was really, there were quite some times when I was thinking, phew, maybe I should not have said that. But
yeah.
But anyway, I didn't care. And I was always somebody who said, as long as it entertains somebody, or at least I was entertained. And I'm sure that some people are going to be entertained, because at the end of the day, I believe it's also about entertaining people. It's not just about bringing over or bringing across a message. It's about also the way how you make them feel. And if they are spending their time with you, if they're actually giving you their time, and even right now, if somebody's watching us and giving us their time, then at least it should not be like, aha, okay, I'm sitting here like doing my homework in school of a topic that actually I don't care about. No, it should be something that is actually emotionally involving. That's actually where you think, yeah, okay, maybe you learn something, get inspired, or you laugh at times. There's like, okay, that's cool. So just there should be some emotions attached to it. Some positive emotions,
Absolutely.
hopefully.
Absolutely. No, you're right.
And actually
I think this is
up,
also important. Yeah. No, I think I wanted to say it's also important, as you said, to bring the emotions to the people who are watching to you. You know, sometimes, of course, we are really reporting about things which are not funny at all, and where, of course, it's not the right place and time to make jokes. And especially then, it's important to find the right words, to be calm. Especially when someone is murdered, or if a house is burning, and people are really in a stressed and awful moments. It's important that you find the right words, even for the people who watch it on TV, that you find the right theme and the right words for that.
I totally agree. And also you need to be yourself. You need to be, because also you have things going through your head in that moment. And not just you, but like when some, also the viewer and the listener is going to have their own views. And for example, I remember it was once on the 2nd of January. And I was having a phone conversation live on TV with a speaker from the police about incidents that happened on New Year's Eve. And he was telling me about an accident where somebody, you know, in today's day and age where everything is about, it's got to be the perfect shot on video for a story on Instagram or something. Listen to this. He wanted to film a rocket, like a firework rocket, taking off into the air from above. Like he was leaning over to make a video from the rocket from above, and then he landed in the hospital. And seriously, obviously it's a tragic accident. And at the same time, I was just asking him, like I just had to reconfirm that I listened to it correctly. And then I just said, well, I guess you're also never going to get bored in your job.
No,
because it's really, there are some things, but going back into the play of words and into using puns, what you do a lot, and how to develop that skill. There's another skill what you really are a master in, which is to memorize things. Like you memorize many things. You know many things from the past. You studied history, but I'm sure there are a lot of things that were not in the studies of history. Do you have a certain skill, or how did you develop the skill of memorizing something? Is that something that came natural to you? Is it something that you have a certain system of how to store your memories? And also when we're going back to the play of words, also those things need to be memorized. So how do you do that?
Yeah, probably see in the back some books. I just have here not so much, but some of them. And when I was a child, I always used the library of my grandfather. He had a big library with thousands of books. And when I was a child, it was really interesting for me because there's so much knowledge in every book. You know, it's some of these books are 100 or 200 or 300 years old. And I was always so surprised that these books are surviving generations of human beings, and the knowledge which you can have from inside is still existing. So I think probably this was something which was interesting for me, because I'm really interested in several topics. Even in some I probably don't need for TV. It's from sports, and probably also from some sports where you are not reporting every day, but probably you can use your knowledge one day. But it's also about some topics. For instance, yesterday I was making a story about the famous car from an Austrian politician who was far right-wing politician. And this car, which he used almost 23 years ago, will now be sold. And I was more interested in another car from the 1980s from DeLorean. I'm sure you know this from Back to the Future. And then I've seen on great, yeah, great, a great movie. And yesterday I was Googling a bit about that, and then I was Googling about, or then I saw a Netflix documentary about John DeLorean, and it was so interesting, and I really wanted to sleep, but in the end I spent about 2 or 3 hours watching these 3 documentaries about his life. And even if I don't use it today, tomorrow, or in the next half year, probably one day there's a topic about him or about old sports cars, and then I can use this knowledge. So I think for me, it's always important to learn something new, to read a lot. It's not just in documentaries. Sometimes probably you know the situation by yourself. You are Googling for someone, then you find the Wikipedia article, and then you find another person who is linked to this person, and then in the end you find 3, 4, 5 persons and find really interesting topics about that. And of course I try to memorize that. And some of play on words, for instance, which are complicated or which I really like, I make a screenshot or I write it down, and sometimes I look for it and I think, okay, probably I can use it for that and that topic.
Very interesting. So, okay, I like that. And now everybody who's listening to you right now, and even if you're just listening to you in the first time, and even if this is not your native language, you're very good with talking. Like, you can just talk, and basically what sticks out is that you are able also to, even if you're improvising or if you just get asked a question, it always has a clear structure. It's always on point. How do you develop that skill?
Yeah, this is something I would say learning by watching, especially when I was a child. I was often watching sports on Austrian television or even politics. And of course, I didn't want to copy someone, but I was really looking, okay, how is he or she talking? How is he or she holding the microphone? How is the way he is trying to give a structure in his kind of presentation? And I tried to learn something from some people, not to copy them. And then I tried to find my own style in my sort of reporting. And I think you can learn quite a lot from different persons, from not just from media, from different sections, or from people who love to speak and to love to stand on stage and to make entertainment or whatever with other people, even from musicians. I'm not the kind of person who is singing or dancing or making something like that, but sometimes when you are watching, no, I'm not a dancer. You would be probably a dancing star one day, Ronnie.
Well, that's a different story. But one of the things that also comes with your job is that you interview a lot of people, and you have conducted many, many interviews. What is important when you are actually interviewing somebody? Like, what is the skill that you need to have, and also how do you deal with somebody else? Because as in life, there's a huge diversity of the people that you're interviewing, because it can be all kinds of people. So what's the secret?
Yeah, the secret is don't be shy. As a private person, I would never go to someone and say, hello, here am I, talk to me, I have to say this and that. But when you're talking to a person, it doesn't depend if it is Mr. Maya Müller or if it's Will Smith, it doesn't make a difference. For instance, in 2018, I was at the press conference where Will Smith and others were giving the presentation of the World Cup song. And Will Smith was asking in the room, in the press conference room, everyone from his country, where are you from? Then the person says, for instance, Germany. And then Will Smith was shouting something funny back. And people from different countries were shouting something and Will was shouting something back. And then I was thinking, okay, I will never have the chance to shout and to make fun with Will Smith in my life again. So I was just shouting out at the press conference, Austria, Austria. And then he was shouting back, Opera House, Vienna, yeah, yeah. And this was really funny because, you know, as a normal person, I would never go there and I would be shy, I would stand in the background. But of course, when you're working and when you want to find a story or so, you should make no difference if it's a super VIP person or if it's your neighbor.
And if somebody is actually on the other side of the microphone, basically if somebody's being interviewed, and especially those who are not as experienced and as being interviewed, what tips could you give somebody who suddenly sees himself or herself with a microphone in front of her face?
I would say talk like you are talking to one of your friends, to your father, to your mom, to your brother, whoever, to a person you really like. And if you don't want to talk at all, or if you don't like interviews, you don't have to do this. You are not forced to do this probably in school. But normally people who doesn't like to do presentations, they are not they don't have to. But I think it's important not to be shy. It's like we are talking together now, you know, I'm not an expert of the English language. For me, it's much easier to talk in the mother language. But I think it's important not to be shy, to say, hey, it's nice. I'm happy with that. And if people have the mind, it's cool and it's something nice to talk about. Then they love to talk about it. And in the end, if you have a reporter who is making this interview with you and he is in a good way and who is listening, he will calm you down a bit. I think some people, of course, are nervous. And when you tell them, okay, don't be nervous. You're not at the dentist. You're not at the executor or at someone else. It's a normal situation. We are just talking like you are doing normally with other people as well. He or she will do this quite perfect.
Nobody's gonna die if you say something wrong. It's all good. Who were the most because you had quite some different people, like who were the most fascinating guests when you think about interviews, or do you have some fun memories as well?
Yeah, we already mentioned Hugo Portisch. He's well known in Austria. He was the journalist of the century, and I had the big honor a few months before he was dying. He was at he got a prize from the Republic, and he was really old, and you know he was not able to listen good anymore, and he was walking very slowly. But then I was asking him something, and then he changed completely. Then he was his mind and his spirit was there, and he was full of power, full of energy. And for me, it was so interesting to see that, because in the moments he was, as we say, in his element, he was a complete another person. And then when the interview was over, it was like this again. And unfortunately, then he was dying. But it was a really impressive moment. Other stories, other funny stories were, for instance, at the Olympic Games. My camera colleague and me, we were at the breakfast, and suddenly we saw a Ban Ki-moon walk, because the former General Secretary of the United Nations, Ban Ki-moon, was walking in. So we were running. The egg was still on the table and the orange juice. We were running towards him and make a short interview with him. Yeah, this was quite funny, because it was a big surprise for us as well.
The Ban Ki-moon walk. That's Not to be confused with the monkey moonwalk.
Yes.
That's something different.
But I've never done an
All right,
interview
wow.
with a monkey.
Not yet.
No interviews with, not yet, no. But when you're going,
Who
have you
knows?
been to Gibraltar? In Gibraltar, the
I
monkeys are turning and
I've had that experience in Bali at a monkey forest in Ubud when they were basically attacking me and they wanted to steal sunglasses and so on. But that was
wait,
and then they wanted to sell it back to you or their owners afterwards. So yeah, I've had to deal with monkeys, but I didn't interview them.
yeah, take care. They are very quick and
I have before we wrap it up, I have another question for you because you also are an author, as I said. You wrote a book about a soccer goalkeeper or football goalkeeper, but not just any goalkeeper from the 1930s, from the early 1930s. He was back then also the goalkeeper of the Austrian national team, but it was, as we call it here, the Wunder team, which was the team that actually was maybe the best in the world at the time in the early 30s. And then as an upset, 1934 only ranked fourth in the World Cup. But that's a whole different story. But how did you, like, okay, writing a book, I get it. That's fascinating and that's cool. And I love that. And why did you choose to, hey, my first book, I'm just going to pick a goalkeeper who I didn't even see to play, who was in the 1930s?
you're a football expert, as you have summarized up everything which is important about the time. For me, it was really interesting to find the whole history of his life, his full puzzle of life, because there was one book about him existing, but it was from 1925. So yeah, some time was passing by. And this was the main reason I was really interested in that. There is a famous painting existing about the so-called Wunder team from the year 1932 against England. Austria lost that game, you know it, at the Stamford Bridge.
4-3 in Wembley.
I was really, yes. And I was really wondered about the goalkeeper because he was dressed up. So we have it again. He was different to the others with his pullover, and for me it was so interesting. Yes, and about his head, looked like a bit like a French guy or English guy. And then I was googling a bit and saw that in Styria, the home of Arnold Schwarzenegger, there is a kind of archive in the football section of Styria, and so I found thousands of newspaper articles and documents, and I was talking to people who saw him when they have been a child because he died in the early 1970s, and his puzzle of life was so interesting because he was a hero on the pitch. He was probably the best goalkeeper we had in the first half of the last century. But on the other hand, his private life was so tragic. He was not able to handle the situation with money. His situation with wives was often amour fou, as we would call it. He had many wives, but in the end, he was a really lonely person. And he was a strong smoker, and in the end, this was the reason. He lost one of his feet, and in the end, he was dying in a very sad way because no one was interested in him anymore. And this tragedy of life was for me the reason to write this book in 2017.
So when did you actually make the decision? Like you just told us the whole process, yeah? But when was the point, like, I see a painting, hey, I'm going to write a book about the dude with the head, or how is that?
No, of course it was not so from the first moment that I said, okay, I will do it. But it was the time when I finished my university studies, and then I was thinking, okay, you're a historian, and every historian should write an interesting book in his life. And I didn't want to write the 30s book about, I don't know, Adolf Hitler or Napoleon or Stalin or whatever. I wanted to create something new, and that was the reason I was doing the research about him, because it was a topic I really liked. I like to read about interesting biographies about interesting people, and of course I like football, and the position of the goalkeeper is really an interesting one, as you know, because he's also different to the other 10 players on the pitch, and that was the reason to write it. But of course it was also not easy, because you have to find someone who wants to publish it. You have to try to get advertisement in the newspapers, and all these things are not always the sunny side of life. But it's important when you have the goal. You know that quite well, Ronnie. As someone who is trying to motivate people, it's important to do everything to get the goal in the end, to fulfill the dream.
What is the best book? Absolutely. What's the best book that you've ever read, and why?
Oh, that's a good question. A book I really liked. I would say I have not the best one, but a book I really liked in the past was a Swedish book. I have to tell this title in German. I don't know it in English. Der 100-Jährige, der aus dem Fenster stieg und verschwand. It's about a person who is 100 years old, who was going out of the window of the place he was living, and then his life, he disappeared, and then his life was told. And it's a fictional book, but in this book he met Mao Zedong, Stalin, Tito, also not good persons, and it was written in a very funny way. You learn a lot about the time in the past, even something didn't happen at all. But the Swedish author really wanted that people have that infotainment. And for me, it was really a good piece of history and a piece of literature in one book in about 300, 400 pages.
Wow. As our time is coming to an end here, one more question. What's one piece of it? Yeah, time is passing fast here. What's one piece of advice you would give to somebody who's just starting out on their journey?
Live your dreams. I would say, there's a famous quote from Mark Twain. It's also my motto of life. I think it's important for everyone, not just for someone who wants to become a journalist. But Mark Twain said, give every day the chance to be the best in your life. And this is also important in journalism and in media. Give every day the best, make every day the best, and be a happy person, be interested in many topics, be curious, and then you will be successful in almost every job. Because the people who are not happy with the things they are doing, and who say, "Oh, I hate this, I hate that, I want it's Monday, but it should be Saturday, and I hate my boss, and I hate this and that," they won't have a happy life in their job. So if you are unhappy with the thing you are doing, and if you really hate it, change it. I think this is the best you can do.
That reminds me actually also of Michael Jordan, who was also the best at what he did, which was playing basketball. And he actually, he said that every day or every game that he played it 100%. There was no off day, because he said wherever he was, and even if the game didn't mean anything, wherever he was, there was going to be somebody in the audience, a kid in the audience or somebody who was going to see him for the only time in his life live. And he said he doesn't want anybody in the audience to say, I watched Michael Jordan. I saw him live. And yeah, he was average, or he didn't have a good day or something. No, he didn't want anybody to say that. So he showed up every day with 100%, and that's the recipe for greatness.
Absolutely.
David.
And his number, the number 23, will be remembered in 100 years as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree. For me, the best athlete ever, or the best sports person. Where can people find more about you? If they got inspired, if they want to say, wow, that was really awesome, or I got a question.
Yeah, I'm happy if somebody is interested in that, they can follow me on Instagram on complicated name, David Herrmann-Meng in one piece, on Instagram or on Facebook as well. Or if they want to watch it, they can see me 5 times a week on OE24 TV. Also on Instagram, we have not on Instagram, on YouTube, we have a YouTube live stream. So yeah, probably also for people who are not from Austria, it's interesting to see what is going to happen in our country. And if they are interested in that, they can watch it.
Thank you very much. I will, of course, also put all the links in the show notes. And that being said, also please make sure to subscribe and follow also the Ronnie Lieber Show on YouTube or on podcast, and of course, on all kinds of social media. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us here this week and for giving all your wisdom, all your nuggets about being on the media, about being on TV, and what it all comes down to become a more interesting and fascinating person and personality. Thank you very much. Give it up, David Herrmann-Meng.
Thank you very much, Ronnie. It was a pleasure to be on the show, and see you soon.
Absolutely. See you soon. And to everybody listening and watching, thank you so much. See you next week.
Thank you for sticking with us until the end. To make this content even more valuable for you, please leave a comment below and share your thoughts, and also share this video with somebody you care about who absolutely needs to see this. Thank you very much. Have an outstanding day and see you next time.